As I look around the world, bonds are a bubble. Bonds have never been this expensive in history. Property in many places, New Zealand, Korea, many places, property is a bubble because of low interest rates. Well, interest rates are going to go higher, so property is not a great place. Many stocks were a bubble. Samsung went up every day. Tencent went up, Many stocks were forming a bubble. It's calmed down now. But the only asset that I know that's still cheap is, commodities. Silver is down 75% from its all-time high. These things are very, very cheap, and those are not bubble numbers. So, and if we're going to have inflation, which we are, if you own the things that go up in price when there's inflation, you make money. And by definition, commodities go up when there's inflation. Look around. A lot of people I know are investing in crypto and having fun and making money. Many have already disappeared and gone to zero. I don't invest in them because the bulls say they're going to be money. And my answer to that is, if and when all our money is on our computer, it's going to be government money. It's not, when the U.S. government says, okay, this is money now, and every government is working on crypto money, they're not going to say, this is money, but if you want to use that money, you can use that money. That's not the way bureaucrats think. That's not the way politicians think. They want control. They want to regulate everything. And so, in my view, if they're just trading vehicles, fine, have at it. And I'm not a good trader.
So the recent crypto crashes don't change your mind about, any consumer behavior that might be destabilizing, or that's not your philosophy?
Well, if things change, then I have to change too. But no, I don't see anything that's going to make me, if suddenly the euro is all denominated in cryptos, then I'll have to change. But no, I don't see that. It's been over 13 years since in the U.S. there was a problem. That's the longest in American history, and I use America since it's the largest. So we're going to have recessions again, and we're overdue. There's a lot of pessimism around right now, and usually when there's a lot of pessimism, something happens to cause the pessimism to rise. So I would suspect maybe peace in Ukraine. I don't know. I'm just guessing. Something will happen. Everybody will get optimistic again. We'll have one last blow-off. We often have blow-offs in markets after a long, long rise, then we have a blow-off. I would suspect we'll have a blow-off, and that's the time to sell and to sell short. I hope I'm smart enough to short that blow-off. 2008, we had a big problem because of too much debt.
Yeah.
Look out the window. The debt since 2008 has skyrocketed everywhere. Look at Japan. Look at America. Look at everywhere. The debt has gone up by staggering amounts since 2008, so I don't see how the next one cannot be the worst in my lifetime. It just seems to me a simple conclusion.
Is there any prescription that you have, not just for investors, but what do you want to see governments, policymakers looking at right now?
Resign. Most government policymakers have no clue, certainly not in Washington, D.C. So, no, I would tell them, yes, stop spending money and reduce the debt. You think they're going to do that? Well, in America, we've had 3 central banks. The first 2 central banks disappeared because of mistakes. This one's going to disappear too eventually. We've only had 3 in the U.S., 2 good central bankers in my lifetime. India had a very good central banker a few years ago. But as I look around in my history, I don't remember very many good central bankers. Most of these guys are bureaucrats and academics. They don't know what they're doing. They know what they read. They know how to keep their job, but they don't care about you and me. They care about their job. And most of these, we had one named Paul Volcker who ended the inflation of the 70s, but it's because he knew what to do. And the president said to him, you can do anything you want. To give Jimmy Carter, his name was Jimmy Carter, the president, he said, you can do anything you want. And Volcker said, are you sure? Carter said, yes. Well, Carter lost the presidency because Volcker took interest rates. And you won't believe this, but at the end of 1979, Treasury bills in the U.S. yielded over 20%. That's not a typo, over 20%. long-term government bonds yielded over 15% because Volcker knew what he had to do and he did it. That we may have that problem again. Well, China certainly has had a bubble, a property bubble, which Beijing has talked about ending for several years. They never did anything, but now it's happening. The property bubble is popping. You're going to have more bankruptcies in China. And Beijing says they'll let people go bankrupt. I hope they mean it. It'll be good for China. It'll be good for the world. And then we can start over. But Michelle, America became the most successful country in the 20th century. But along the way, we had civil war, bankruptcies, riots in the street, massacres in the streets. We had many problems, but we became very successful. China will have problems, but I, anyway, live in Asia because of China, and I want my children to know Asia and to speak Mandarin because I don't see anybody else in the 21st century.
What is your current outlook on the subject of food inflation?
Well, agriculture has been a disaster for 30 years or so. The average age of farmers in America is 58. The average age in Japan is 66. I mean, farming has been a disaster for a long time. The Chinese have a wonderful word, wei ji. It means disaster and opportunity, the same thing. So I see great opportunities in agriculture. I've invested in agriculture and I plan to invest more because either we're not going to have clothes, we're not going to have food, or agriculture is going to continue to get better.
What about this current run of food price growth especially? I mean, do you see, obviously it's very hard to predict with all the weather impact as well, but where are we on the food inflation story?
Well, inventories are being worked down because of the war and because of the virus. I am investing in agriculture and plan to invest more because I see something has to change and it's starting to change. And the war, of course, in Ukraine makes agriculture even more, it makes it more attractive because there is no food. Because the Russians and the Ukrainians are both huge producers of food. If you're having a war, you don't plant many crops. And so I think things are going to get better.
I recall that you've told young investors to get involved in goods, commodities.
Well, if you like working outdoors, agriculture is going to, as I said, the average age of farmers in Japan is 66. Nobody wants to be a farmer. That means there's opportunity because there's not much competition.
Well, let me take one other audience question. What is your view on India?
Well, if you can only visit one country in your life, I would urge you to visit India. There's no place like it. The food, the sights, the men, the women, everybody. It's very, very exciting.